7:03. Let's start the meeting.
Matt Lynchett,
Here.
Ken Cleveland,
Here.
Rosanna Glenn,
Here.
Shannon Hughes Brown,
Here.
Ken Jackson,
Here.
Blaze Messenger, John Post,
Here.
Jessica Lamb, here, and Heather Jacobs. And let's see here, there's no administration. I have Samantha D'Agostino from CSG, Chris Cycley, Karen. Okay, and nobody from Tecton, Board of Ed. Anybody from Town Council or Board of Finance that I missed? All set.
Okay, look at the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? I do have one change I would like to make. We need to look at future meeting dates. Because there's some conflicts with town council meetings that we need to move, and I think there's a handful of other conflicts that I probably need to look at, so I wanna add that as a agenda item 5J under new business. I'd also like to propose adding an agenda item to approve the communication subcommittee meeting schedule for the remainder of the year. I'm gonna
Second.
add that under your minutes. 7A. Second. Okay, all in favor of approving, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda with the 2 modifications, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right, right along. Minutes from the 15th of June. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. All in favor, say nay. Ayes have it. Anyone here for public comment? Anyone? Okay. We did have one email submitted that I'm gonna read off. This is from Ann Bullock. Dear friends, congratulations Shannon, all that work so hard to get approval for the new middle school. So excited and needed. There's a lot of conversation across towns in Connecticut about net zero schools and public buildings, so wanted to share these 3 articles. Branford is proposing that all municipal buildings will be net zero by 2040. Please feel free to share. And she provided 3 links to articles about net zero buildings, which we will review. So we will distribute that on our teams, and then everyone can take a look at those. And we probably should add that to our issues list as well. It's on there. Okay, thank you. Okay, new business. Oh, any other new comments? Okay. New business. I don't have much update because I was gone all week last week. But the biggest and most wonderful thing is that we have submitted our grant application to the state of Connecticut, and it was confirmed, received by the state of Connecticut. So thank you, CSG, and Enzo's not here. Dr. Macri's not here. So that was a huge, huge milestone for us. We should all be really happy and proud that we got to this point. A lot of hard work went into it, and this is kind of the culmination of all of our hard work over the past 3 months. So, yay! I think it deserves a round of applause. So now on to the fun parts. That was pretty much the only thing I wanted to talk to, and we have a lot on our agenda, so we're just gonna get right into it. So the grant submission status. So we're all set, it's submitted, we're just gonna wait for them to do their thing now for the rest of the next 12 months.
Right, that's it really. It's your,
Now, do they provide any feedback along the way, or, and something happens in December, right?
so between now and between now and December, or really between now and November, is when they'll take a look at all the information that we uploaded, all the answers. They'll reach out to Enza with any questions. They'll use her kind of as the repository to communicate. So then December 15th is the priority list when the school, which recommends the projects that submitted grants to go to the legislation.
Okay.
That's when you know you're going to be on the list.
So that's their recommendation to legislation.
Right.
And then, do we get formal notification that we're on that, or do you have to like go on their website to see something? How's that? How do we get communicated on?
You there's no formal notification. You
Okay.
you check on the 15th.
You check on the 15th.
Yeah.
So they post that letter.
Mhm. Right on their website. I do want to point out one thing though, since we're talking about the grant submission. There are 2 grants. There's one for the middle school and one for central office.
Okay.
Effective July 1 now, based on the session that just ended,
Mm-hmm.
the central office grants are now a priority list project. So that's why it got submitted with the middle school this time.
Okay.
Prior to that, they were non-priority, so you could submit them the first 10 days of every month. However, if we waited till July, they would have been on separate legislative cycles. So they both went in now.
So the net result's the same.
The net result is the same.
Okay.
However, on all of your documents moving forward, you need to reference both the middle school as well as central office, and all the RFPs have to have separate
Oh.
bid forms. It can be an identical, but one needs to say the middle school and one needs to say central
Okay.
office.
Good to know.
Everything from here on out. Invoices, everything has to be broken out because it's technically 2 separate projects.
And you provided those grant numbers?
You're not going to get the grant numbers until this time next year.
So what do we put in the letters? Just the project itself?
Yeah, just the names.
Okay.
You're referencing the names as the middle school and central office. So then next July-ish is when you'll get your grant commitment letter with your permanent project number. And then from that point forward, you use that project number. They used to issue temporary numbers. They no longer issue temporary numbers.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Did they make any decision on the reimbursement rate for central office first? Because there was some discussion there. Trying to think back. Get my brain.
That would all be special legislation in the next session.
Okay, so the rules haven't changed as
No.
of yet. Okay.
Nope. No, and those rules aren't going to change. They're back to statute. So now, the space waiver, as we talked about, right, for the increase in size of the stage, additional reimbursement for the central office, all those would have to go through special legislation now.
Okay. Would it be in our best interest to get those submitted soon so that they do go through the next legislation cycle?
Yes.
The waivers?
You don't really submit them. You just work with the legislators. They do it on the back end, and then it becomes part of the bill next session.
So what do we need to provide them?
Information.
And they would go create something?
No, there's really nothing that they create. It's just language.
So there's no like waiver form?
No,
Oh, interesting.
no, there's no form. No.
Okay.
We would submit a letter to school construction grants office, but that's independent of going to the legislators. That would then, the special legislation just becomes a paragraph within the school construction bill that's adopted next session.
Do we have a standard letter or form we can submit to their offices to request that they go to the?
It's two separate tracks. You write a letter stating your case as to why you feel you're justified to get the additional square footage to the school construction grants, and then simultaneously you go to your legislative body and say, we've submitted our letter, now you need to do what you do within the legislation to get it approved.
Okay.
And the legislation would be specific to this Cromwell Middle School build.
Yes.
Okay, so it would be some kind of carve out or acknowledgement of, because you said that they will modify the construction grant. I guess you're saying
No
allowances.
The grant doesn't. It just becomes. I guess it's hard to explain without having a section of the bill, but it just becomes a subsection within the legislative public act.
Yeah.
Next
okay.
year that would say, for instance, Cromwell Middle School has been granted space eligible up to the 84 or the 83,000 square feet.
Yeah, but
right?
so it would single out
Right.
this. Yeah.
Right,
yeah.
but that's all it is. It's verbiage, and then school construction grants takes that and then updates their back end.
Right.
There's really nothing for us to do.
Yeah. And we keep, I guess, talking about the stage because in our mind we had the building, it fit the maximum allowed space, and then we decided to put like additional space for the stage. But when we talk about with the legislators or the office that's reviewing the grant, they're not going to know where that extra 350 came from. For all they know, we decided to add 2 extra classrooms, right? Like I'm saying internally we call it a stage, but we don't have to have our legislators say, hey, it was really important we had the stage. I mean, if we want, we can say we had a building, then at the last minute we decided to extend it to the stage, but
Well, there's
maybe
two
that's our
things.
best
You want
But there's
approach.
2 things, right? There's space increase, but then there's also the allowance for the seats and everything is what we need the waiver for, right?
It becomes more programmatic. You've got to justify the programmatic reason and
Yeah.
not just.
So maybe it is
you
good
won't
to
get
tie
it if
to
you
the
just
stage.
say you wanted to have it because that's what you have now.
Right.
Yeah. So it
School
is better.
construction will definitely
So to
deny it.
show like how many band students we have, for example, and saying they
Yeah.
don't fit on the current stage and the growing, number of productions we have each and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely got to be program driven.
Yeah.
Program.
Yeah. But-
Well, they could say, fine, let's have that bigger stage. You should have found space in your other
Right.
your hallways or
The
something.
next
But
the
we
next
couldn't
phase
argue.
now is when is when you'll get into that. You'll draft that letter, submit it, and
Yeah.
then like I said, and then in tandem go to your legislators and give them the background, the history, the reasoning.
Do you recommend that we wait until after the election to reach out to the legislators?
They're not going to do anything until the session starts. So there's no reason why you couldn't start to have that conversation with them now.
Just might not be there.
Right. They just might not be there after the election. So
Okay.
yeah.
So just to be clear, though, the waiver for the space, we can say it's programmatic, and we could say we had a building fit in the constraints according to the STEM education program, but then eventually we decided to increase the size of the stage because of the students enrolled, the emphasis. So that's fine, but
Saying based on what we had, the experiences we had at the old middle school, saying with the problems that we had at the old middle school too.
Yeah. Okay, but then the seats, the whole idea with the seats is that's a little more like they're not going to write that into the bill.
No,
So
no,
that's
it wouldn't be that specific.
Okay.
No.
You're
Just being
asking for
you're
the-
changing for an allowance. is all
You're asking
right?
for the waivers to go from your max allowable up to the size that you have now.
Yeah.
Yep.
They don't get into the bill will not be specific for reasons why.
Right.
The actual legislative bill will just say the middle school project is authorized.
Allowance is increased to some
Right.
the size.
You're
To
literally
build to a
waiving
square
the
footage of.
allowance requirement,
Right.
right?
Right, but then in terms of also seeking a waiver for the seats, right? Because that's more specific.
You're,
We're not gonna
you're-
go through that.
you're way
That'll
in
be a
the-
different
you're,
track.
You're way in the weeds right now. That's they're one and the same. You
Oh.
write one letter for the total size of the building, and you best explain the programmatic reasons behind it.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
total, why the building needs to be 83,000
And then you just
square
clue in
feet.
your legislators that that letter was written and tell them to go fight for it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure then that because even if we met the size constraints, we still had the issue of how much seating we were going to get reimbursed for. I thought.
Yes, that happens. Yes, that happens at the end of the project. But yes, but it all becomes one and the same because you have that issue as well.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. We'll get there.
We'll get there. I was just
We'll
saying
get
the same
there.
thing.
We'll get there.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion on the grant submittal process or anything?
What does this limit us to between now and the time that it goes through legislation? I mean, what can we not do up to this point, up to that point?
For the grant work, you can do everything but actual construction work.
Okay.
So
Right.
design work, pretty
So-
much.
You can't actually start construction until you receive the grant
Can
commitment
we,
letter.
can we order materials or no?
No.
Yeah,
You can't even
You
order
cannot.
materials.
You cannot pre-purchase anything.
Yeah,
No, everything has to go out to be bid.
yeah.
Yep.
So just the soft stuff.
And you have to get through there's phased approvals. So this would be 2 phases. Probably it would be the construction and the demolition would be phase 1, and phase 2 would be your FF&E and technology. So you would need to get the approval of phase 1 before you could do anything related to construction, and then similarly phase 2 for FF&E and technology, you'd have to wait for that approval letter as well before you can order anything or do anything, put anything out to bid.
All right, any other discussion? All right, let's move on to item C. Review and possible action to suggest edits to school building committee charge. So you should all have a copy of it in your packets. So at the beginning of our adventure here, Town of Cromwell created a charge for us, which pretty much gave us the guidelines of how this team would function. Based on our last conversation from our last meeting, there were some gaps or some conflicts with what we felt we should be doing versus what the town purchasing requirements document requires us to do. So I think the intent is there, but we need to clarify that in the charge. So in here you'll see some red lines and blue lines of edits that we've made. Basically what it does is it allows us to go and select the ORPM. So Chris, the last time we met, you mentioned that the contract that you guys had a part 2. Unfortunately, there's no contract, so we only have the RFP, and the town does not recognize that. So we wouldn't be able to use that even if you did have a part 2 in there. So we'd have to go through the whole process all over again, and you'd have to go and, submit your qualifications and all that jazz. Let's see. The other changes or to add, and then same verbiage was added for the, I don't know if it's in here. The construction manager, I think, was already in here.
The architect. Yeah.
And the commissioning agent, yep, and the commissioning agent was the other one.
We need to add one more. At some point, we'll need to hire a special inspector.
Does the commissioning agent take care of that?
No, commissioning agent is for mechanical systems. Special inspector will inspect structural systems, concrete, fire protection, like, yeah.
Materials testing lab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not,
That's
that's not
not-
something the construction manager goes and does,
That's
subcontracts?
that's independent. That's a contract that's held by the town as a testing lab.
So that's not something that we go through, you're
You,
saying?
you want it to be independent of the contractor.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. So what's it called, special?
Special inspector.
Materials testing. Just call it a material because they're different, and they're a
need
special
both?
inspector is part of the materials testing lab. Yes.
So do we need one for the materials testing lab and one for the special?
No.
No, they're the same.
Okay, materials testing.
Right. You won't need that until construction starts.
Oh, at the start.
Yeah.
You could add that, Roseanne, right into item number 4,
Yeah.
which is the creation of a missing agency package and a materials testing package.
Where are we?
So you don't need a, full paragraph.
Okay. Are there any other entities we would need to go out for?
There are. I don't know that they need to necessarily be written into the charge.
Well, the reason why we have it in here is because there's a separate town procurement requirements document. And we want to make sure that this team has full responsibility and authority over the selection of any kind of group that we want to hire ourselves, as opposed to going through the normal town process.
Okay. So, in that case, then you should add. Who else do we have? There'll be a third-party code reviewer. You'll have to put an RFP out for. That's done before the drawings and specifications are brought to the state to get the approval to go out to bid for phase 1. That is in lieu of the town's building department doing a code review. I have not spoken to this town's building department, so I don't know if they would be interested in it, if they want to. Most say that they, especially right now, they are too busy and they rely on the various code review people across the state. There's a handful of them that do this. They all know each other, and they just defer to that, but you'll need an RFP for that.
Our budget assumed we'd be going out for all of these, right? Our budget, the cost estimation assumed we'd be going out for all of these.
It's part of that 15% soft cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not specifically broken out in there in terms
Right.
of an estimate number, but it's just part of that soft cost estimate.
Okay.
So we'll need a turbidity monitor, I believe. I believe we exceed the acreage disturbance for stormwater discharge, so we would need a separate independent turbidity monitor.
Turbidity?
Yep. No, that would be included in. Oh yeah, monitoring. Technology would be part of architecture. I'm just trying to run through the list of all the consultants that I wasn't expecting that we'd be going through that list tonight.
How about if you add the ones we've discussed into the commissioning agent, and then put in any other specialty entities that may be required to facilitate the project?
Okay.
I would maybe just keep it separate from commissioning and just leave all those as number 3, and say this one, and any others that are required along the way.
601.
Just because commissioning is so specific.
I'll just make it a 5th one, saying basically any other special.
Outside consultant services or consulting groups?
Yeah, as needed.
Third party. Say third-party consultants and testing.
Mm-hmm.
As may be required.
Okay. I think it'd be good to, when we get to that point in a couple months, to break down those soft costs and give ourselves a budget for each, because, you know, I know that the architect, owner's rep, construction, like the top 4 ones are gonna take a huge chunk of it. So we're probably gonna wanna break down that budget.
Yeah, and we do have it broken down somewhat. We don't have it broken down to each line item, at least not yet. That is traditionally next step after this. You kind of go into it. You know, we get it submitted as a whole right now, and then you start to break it all down and put it into the different line items.
I just would want to propose one additional edit to the charge, just on item number 2. And this is just for consistency of language. The edit didn't have information in there about state of Connecticut statutes and where the state statutes take precedence, and then the final sentence that's in like item 3, the building committee in coordination with the town attorney shall negotiate, and so on. I think that language should just be consistent in number 2 as well. So if we take action on this, I would like to include that edit.
Yep. Okay. Any other?
I would like to make a motion to approve the edited charge with the changes in number 2 and the addition of item number 6 as discussed.
Second.
Okay, so one question on that.
Mhm.
Item 7 that we clarified there. Just something to the extent, should the vendor exceed the allocated budget? What are we saying? Final approval is required by the town council.
Maybe we need to probably exceed the total allocated budget, not their specific budget, right?
Yeah,
Basically,
I just wonder.
if we go, let's say something comes back and it's way out of, like, let's say we had, I don't know, $8 million just for soft cost. I don't know what the number was, but let's pretend it was 8 million. And we had everything budgeted out, and we assumed 2 million for an architect, and they come back with $4 million as the cheapest, right? That could throw everything off. So, not to say we can't absorb it elsewhere within the budget, but I think we just need to make the town council aware of it. At the same time, it's kind of like, we have enough buffer, we probably shouldn't have to worry about that, right?
Yeah, that's not. I wouldn't think that's something that you would. I mean, yeah, I wouldn't take each individual budget line item like
Or
that.
even in aggregate, Chris. I think what they're
Well,
saying.
Right.
So
I think
this
it's just
is-
it's obviously just the total. If you're exceeding the 58 million,
Yeah.
then you've obviously got to go to council if you can't figure out a way to bring it down.
So this is just a requirement in the town's purchasing document.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll ever face this at this stage of the project. But
But I think the important part is that this you were saying this document, this charge, basically supersedes or waives those requirements. One of that is which looks like if we didn't pick the lowest bidder, we'd have to go to the town or town manager.
we're
Right?
basically
That
saying
was
we
the
don't. We're basically
point,
saying
right?
we don't want to have to go to any. We don't want to have to get approval to go to someone who's not the lowest bidder, is what we're trying to say here.
So the state policy, you don't have to take the lowest bidder for professional services.
Right, but the town does require it. So we're basically saying we want to waive the requirement. They basically think the town manager would have to approve if we don't use the lowest bidder.
Right.
And we're just basically saying we want to waive that requirement.
Maybe that's all we have to say.
and it should
right?
be a building committee approval
Right.
and not a town manager approval.
Right.
I think that's the intent.
So we just said we're just gonna waive, I don't know where it is, section 3. You had it here, right?
Yeah,
We're
so
just
maybe we
gonna
just
ra-
write, the charge also waives the requirement of the town common purchase
Right,
price.
in that the building committee will have full authority
To
to
determine the
determine the
vendor.
selected vendor.
And period.
Should
And
the
then
vendor
there.
selected exceed the allocated budget.
Yeah, I would just end it there, I think.
Well, it's not the should exceed the allocated budget. It should be, should the vendor selected not be the lowest
Bid.
bid, right?
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
It's actually crossed out, not be the lowest bid.
yeah.
Should the vendor selected
and
not
then
be the
delete.
lowest bid,
And then delete everything after that.
and then delete final approval is required by town council.
Okay.
And just for clarification, Roseanne, like, you start mapping out all these professional services, and you do find that maybe you're in excess of 300,000. That's where your owner's contingency comes into play. The committee can then vote to transfer from the owner's contingency line to the professional services line to make up any deficit that may arise.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
I was thinking of that as I was talking before. I'm like, wait, but we have this buffer. Okay. All right. Any other? That was a good catch, Matt. Any other
Oh, okay.
changes?
No, I guess that motion stood, and maybe I'll second.
Okay. All in favor of the new changes to the charge as discussed, say aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed, say nay. Okay.
And this should just be a July, whatever date they meet, early July town council meeting.
So I'm going to actually submit this to them in advance so they can
Yeah.
review it, and then I'll go to the town council. I'm going to ask that there's on the agenda, a possible action to approve the charge during that meeting.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, the meeting is July 13th, the next council meeting.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Next on the agenda is building secretary. So I'm already getting inundated with documentation and just a lot of stuff. And I think it'd be, so actually in our charge, it tells us that we're supposed to have selected a secretary. I think initially we were just thinking minutes, and we have wonderful Lisa helping us out with that, so we don't need a secretary in that capacity, but we do need someone who can organize all these files that are going to start flowing through our desks, our virtual desks, or inboxes. So basically looking for someone who can maybe set up like a Google Drive to, create folders, organize all this information, and maybe create notebooks as we get closer to doing the interviews, so that when we interview the different vendors, we have all the information in front of us. It's a lot of organizational kind of activities. I don't expect it to take up too much time, but it is, I think, a role that does need to be filled. So, any questions about what's being required? Okay. Does anyone want to nominate themselves or someone else for this role? It's not the most glorious one, I know.
So just to put it out there, that's part of the role that we usually do as an owner's representative.
Oh, you
or as a
do?
project manager, yeah, is to keep the committee organized. We have a set of files. They're typically not shared on a Google Drive or anything like that, at least not throughout the entire committee. Once you get into construction or have a construction manager on board, they usually have a document sharing platform that's more for the construction related items between the construction manager and the architect. But we've used that before to be a repository for all different things. They just create folders if you wanted to have, certain things there available to be shared. But that platform is usually used at that point. Because then it's
Interesting.
heavily used during construction
Yeah.
for document sharing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Submittals and RFIs and drawings and sketches and all those things. So that file share will already be covered through your construction manager in terms of getting you prepared for RFPs and interviews and the whole the selection process after the OPM. That's part of the OPM responsibility.
Okay. Do we feel we need one prior to having an OPM selected? Or are we
I
good
would
with what we have for now?
I would just say when we're sending out the RFPs then for the OPMs, we're gonna tell them to email it back to, I don't know, presumably our building committee email address maybe. I don't know, but that would be maybe the only application where we would need to kind of stage documents.
We do have folders in
The-
our email account. In our Gmail.
They should go through purchasing, regardless. This one are all of them. Any RFP will go through the purchasing department of the town.
Yeah.
Okay.
They'll be
Let's go for
received by
Marianne.
purchasing.
Oh, all right, yeah.
They'll be opened by purchasing. You'll get copies however you want them, either hard copy or electronic. 1 or 2 hard copies and then an electronic file, and then that gets distributed amongst the group, or 15 hard copies and electronic, however you decide. But yeah, the RFP process at that point will go through purchasing or finance.
Okay.
I had it structured where the submissions would go to Lisa for the RFQs and 10 copies
Yeah, they're
and
gonna
all
have to go
that.
through Marianne.
And we can restructure it that way, but
Yeah.
my experience has been, it's just try to stay away from the town as much as possible
I
to
know.
facilitate,
I wonder
to
if,
expedite it.
do they have to go to Marianne? Can we put something in here that says they go directly to us? What is it saying here now?
It says everything goes to Lisa. That's fine as long as just know that finance is going to, or finance and or purchasing, however it works in town, is the entity that's responsible to post it.
Mhm.
So however they dictate, I guess, the process is,
Yeah.
if they don't mind it going to Lisa, then it can certainly go to Lisa. But if they want to keep it all in-house, so to speak, then it all goes through them.
Okay.
Does Cromwell even have a independent purchasing department?
We have a whole finance department, and there's purchasing people in that department.
Okay, but it's not an independent purchasing department
No,
per
it's
se.
part of the town. It's hired by the town.
Past practice was it went through the building committee for the high school project and for the WIS. As far as
You mean
submissions.
when we got the submittals from the different vendors, you're saying?
Right.
Yeah. It may that be that way, but I think it has to get posted by finance. They have
That's
to
correct.
post it.
Yeah, Mary Ann or the subordinate would obviously, post it on the state website,
Right.
and the advertising for bidding and all that kind of stuff would go through them. But then the actual submissions, in my opinion, is they should come to the committee, be distributed via Lisa, and then we take it from there.
Okay. I'll follow up with Marianne to make sure that would be okay with her.
Also, Ann Burke was our finance director. She works with Mary Ann when we do the
Oh.
RFPs for any type of construction bid.
Okay.
So she's more comfortable with that. That's fine. She's right next door to me, so
Ann Burke?
yes. She's our finance director.
Yeah, I think that's who processed the ones for the last RFP.
Yeah, she processed the RFP for the owner's rep.
Yeah.
And then the RFP for the architect actually went through finance.
My guess is though, because the town has to issue POs and stuff, they probably want to have it all under their purview. Is my guess. But I'll talk to Marianne and see if she has any issues one way or the other.
Mhm.
And we're just talking about the proposals, and we're not talking about like financial exchanges.
Right.
All right, so I'm gonna guess there's no action then for committee secretary, or does someone still want to propose one, vote on one? Okay. Moving right along. Okay, construction management style. Ken.
We kind of briefly had an overview at the last meeting, and it's my recommendation to the committee that we proceed with the construction manager at-risk format.
Is there a motion to approve that?
I was fine. Just remind me again what was it just a matter of saying, putting that down, like committing to that now
Yes.
versus later for
That way we can
no
start
particular
writing
reason?
the RFQ and with that verbiage in it.
It would be a different format if you sent it out
Yeah.
for a construction manager as advisor or construction manager at risk.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve that?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Wait, I second it.
A second.
Oh, you second it? Oh,
You didn't have a second yet.
I thought I thought.
No.
I miscounted. I apologize. Okay. Shannon
He was the second
seconds it.
person to
Okay,
speak, but-
all in favor say.
First person in
All in
motion.
favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Next one, item F, proposed executive session for the purpose of discussing the performance of current building project contractors. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I heard 4. All opposed say nay.
Nay.
I said aye, so that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So we're going into executive session. If everyone can please leave. You can stay if you want out there, and we'll call you back in when we're done.
Yeah.
Or
through the glass.
or through the
over there.
glass.
Kind of see you.
6:15. We're gonna go back into regular session. We're good? Okay. All right, next on our agenda, review RFP language for the architect and the owner's rep. So we
Just-
have,
Just to start out on this, I do agree, I probably should have put that the separate Board of Ed projects in the cover title. In the document, it is delineated out that they're separate and distinct projects. The process is that send this out, whoever responds to it, they submit their proposal or their qualification statement
yeah,
and all the other things we've asked for. We review that as a committee, shortlist it down to 3 or 4 firms, and then when we schedule the interviews, we send out the request for proposal.
right,
And again, that can be on one form, but clearly delineated that new school construction project, Board of Ed administrative offices, so that the fee is separate and distinct for each one of the projects. That
Okay.
format follows for the architect, for the construction manager, and for the project manager.
If
Okay,
if I can just add,
yeah.
a good example is, I don't know why Lisa just made copies of the RFP that we issued in February. However, this is an example of that. So the cover page of this would say for the Cromwell Middle School and central office projects. You would reference both projects in here, and then the second to last page is the Exhibit C is the cost proposal. In blue, where it says Cromwell Middle School, you would have another page that would look just like this, and in blue it would say Cromwell Central Offices.
Okay, so that's the only thing that really changes is that final sheet.
Right.
Okay. Just final cost sheet and RFP changes. Okay.
So are we starting with?
All right, before we get in that, so I gave everyone a timeline. Very, really rough, me just throwing dates on a piece of paper, of how I see all this. So today we're pretty much at the end of January, June. Gosh, I can't speak today either. And I haven't had like a drink since last week, so what's going on? All right, end of June. So it might be a little sporty, but I was hoping we could submit at least the RFQs for both the architect and the owner's rep by, say, next Friday. I know that's very sporty, probably won't happen, but we can wish. And then it takes about 3 weeks or so to get responses back by the time it gets posted and they reply.
I think 3 weeks would be an adequate time frame.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of July. And then we'd have about a week or two to go through them all and down select and create the RFP, where we would then do our interviews in August. With final selection towards the end of August. So by the end of August, we should have both those vendors selected. What does that timeline look to you? Does that sound achievable?
I think it's a reasonable timeline, and you don't want to defer that off. You want to try to get the PM and the architect on board as soon as possible.
Okay.
The CM, important to get them on board early, but they're the second step as you've has here, so I think your timeline's fine.
Do we need a special meeting next week to review the final RFQ language? Or do we just want to do that offline?
I think we could do it offline and just any comments, changes, additions, deletions, and whatnot, get it straightened out and send it over to Mary Ann.
Do they need to be approved by this committee? If they need to be approved by this committee, then we probably need to have a special meeting.
Probably wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, let's have a special meeting.
Okay. Next Wednesday? The 6th? everyone attend that? Matt, are you available?
I'm out next Wednesday.
You are next Wednesday?
That's
You're
okay.
here. Ken? Shannon?
I could provide comments in advance. It's fine.
5.
I'll be remote, but I can attend.
Okay. All right, so let's plan on that then. Do we need to vote for a special meeting? Or just say we're gonna have a special meeting?
Yeah, we just have to
Okay,
decide.
so 7 o'clock next Wednesday. Throw it on my calendar. And that specifically just to review the RFQs with a possible action to vote on both the RFQ for the architect and the owner's rep.
Just for the RFQs.
Just the RFQs.
Sorry. So what did we discuss, like, right in the minutes, but 2 weeks ago we talked about a combination RFQ, RFP. I mean, it seems to be the format that was used for the original PM and architectural services. To me, it seems to expedite the process, whereby
Yeah.
we could have everything up front. We can still create our short list just purely looking at the qualifications that are submitted.
Can you
And
post
then-
an
and then
RFQ and
dive
an
into-
RFP at the same time? You can. So maybe
I guess
that-
both of these were done
Yeah,
that
the
way.
when
but I don't
the
know.
the RFP, the proposals don't get open till the end.
Right.
They stay sealed.
in a separate envelope.
So they can submit both the RFQs and the RFP at the same time?
Mhm.
Oh, so why don't we do that?
In fact, I think 2 weeks ago I was arguing against that because I was saying, oh, well, now you're making people that you might not even look at the proposal do extra work. But if this, in the spirit of expedition, it would seem to alleviate a lot of back and forth.
Okay.
If everybody's okay with that.
Whatever the committee's pleasure. Because, I mean, the way this is structured is whoever gets called for an interview submits the proposal at their interview. We don't open them until after all 4 of the interviews are completed, but timing-wise, we're gonna get the proposal opening the same time, no matter how you format it.
No, but I think what Matt's saying is that if they had the RFQ and RFP at the same time, then they'll have more time to put together a solid proposal as opposed to waiting for us to tell them that they're gonna get interviewed and then having short amount of time to, or having us push out our schedule to give them more time.
Easy enough to format that way.
Okay, yeah, let's do that then, an RFQ, RFP.
That follows the town guidelines anyway, so we're at least consistent that way.
It just might. Is it pretty? That's why I wasn't sure if the documents here, these RFQs, is it much of a minor addition to just allude to a proposal in there?
I already have the format. We just have to structure it to Cromwell, but
There's content we have to add, or there's already content in here that would contemplate.
it would be a
proposal?
separate form with
Oh, okay.
instructions with regards to how we want it in a sealed envelope and all that kind of stuff.
Okay,
But
it can be.
it's a one-page document. There's not a lot to it.
So
okay.
again, if you go to page 4 of the RFQ that you have now, the architect's one,
Yeah.
instructions to bidders, the first section, bidders are required to submit the following documents in response to the solicitation: 4 hard copies of the qualifications, 1 copy of the fee proposal in a separate sealed envelope, and 1 electronic copy of the qualifications and the fee proposal. So it's all spelled out, as long as
Oh,
the scope
that's
of
the old one.
services is included in the fee. To be referenced for, in asking for a fee, which I believe it is in the draft that was distributed tonight.
Are there 3 separate things then? We want the qualifications. We want the proposal, which, are we using proposal and fee?
Same.
Okay, then maybe that was my.
Fee
My
proposal and
misunderstanding.
qualifications.
Yep. Okay. Sorry, my thought was qualifications mean what you bring to the table in terms of your experience. Proposals, what you're going to do for us, and then a fee is going to tell you how much. But you're saying no. Qualifications is what you bring to the table, and then the proposal is mostly monetary.
Fee proposal is all monetary.
Yep. Okay.
Hmm. Okay.
on
Yeah.
with like our, any edits or changes?
Yep.
Okay, what are we starting with?
Let's start with the engineering, architectural engineering services one that Ken wrote. So we want the, per timeline, we want them due by July 29th.
And what does this written responses do? Is that if there were questions, or is anyone familiar with that?
A lot of times when you send out a request for qualifications, one of the firms may have a question about what we put in it. They are to send that question to Lisa. Lisa forwards it on to Rosanna, and she can distribute it or answer it, or however we want to address it.
We
But
would have to update the website, right, or whatever, however we post this on.
So you don't get a lot usually on these type of things, but
Okay.
occasionally you might get it, and then you distribute that back. The response you distribute to all the submittees.
Okay.
Right, as an addendum.
Mhm.
You would just have to add a line in here for a deadline for questions.
Well,
Yeah, good point.
And then, so we have a deadline for questions. Then we'll say when the addendum is going to be issued by, and then when they're ultimately due. So that it's all just kind of spelled out. So that if let's say if we're looking at this and we don't have any questions, we know we don't have to submit a question by the deadline, but then we look for the addendum deadline to see if one was posted. If anyone else asks questions. So we include all that information there.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna have to get this approved through the town too, for legalities.
And we said that the town will facilitate the notice we're talking about in the Hartford Current. The notice is gonna say an RFP, RFQ has been made, put out there
Yep.
for owner's rep or architect, and we're just going to reference the building committee website or the building project website on the BOE.
That's why I need to talk to Marion
Okay.
about that, what
Yeah.
they're gonna be okay with us doing.
Okay.
I was gonna suggest, Rosanna, that you do include Mary Ann in this. She should review the general conditions, the insurance requirements. I think that's about it. Yeah, general conditions and insurance. They should match whatever the town requirements may be. These are pretty standard, but there may be something unique to Cromwell that she would like included.
And in some cases, some municipalities include a blank draft contract along with the RFP to be reviewed
Oh, okay.
if they have a standard contract.
So in looking at page 2 of the new school construction project architectural engineering grant, question on the design to meet LEED Silver certification. Is there a reason why we would specifically call that out?
That's a requirement of the state of Connecticut for school construction projects. They have to be at least LEED certified.
I thought they had to meet Connecticut's high performance building standards.
Yeah,
Is there
it's high
this-
it's not
Like,
they
do
don't
we-
require you to meet LEED, although LEED Silver and Connecticut High Performance, and even now, the current building code with the latest update that's been adopted, are all very similar. It's almost one and the same. The only thing you probably would get a question on is whether or not the project would like to pursue the actual LEED certification, because there is a cost associated with that, versus implementing design features that would get you the points to get a LEED certification without actually going through the LEED process. if that makes any sense. Being that that's in there, but to your point, no, it's not. The state doesn't require LEED. The state just requires high performance. But
Which-
again, the building code currently and high performance and LEED silver are all virtually equivalent.
Yeah, so the only difference is the same, it sounds like it's the same requirements, it's just whether or not you go after that LEED certification and pay to have that study done, or however it's done, and put the seal on the building.
Correct.
Okay. So would the committee be agreeable to changing that to high performance building standards? And then we could decide later if we were going for like a LEED certification?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Is there anything we would have to call out here if it were to be a net zero building? Or is that also one and the same? I don't think it is, but
I don't have an answer for that.
I don't know.
Now, that's a discussion topic for later.
Okay.
And if we want to go net zero, we're going to blow our budget.
Yes.
Okay. Fair.
Quick discussion.
I don't even know what that would look like for a school this big. So the last line of the first paragraph, it's the intent of the building committee to proceed with the design development phase based on the schematic design prepared by Tecton and approved at referendum.
So this should be revised to proceed with schematic design phase based on the conceptual design prepared by Tecton Architects.
So we want to write down Tecton Architects in here?
I don't think it hurts, right? But
There's no reason not to. It's public.
yeah,
Okay. So based on the schematic design of the conceptual design?
no. It's oh yeah, proceed with schematic design phase based on the conceptual design prepared by Tecton Architects.
Ah.
The intent of that is to start the project to move forward. I mean, we've already reviewed the basic
Yeah.
conceptual design. You don't want another firm coming in and taking you through 2 months of
Sure.
conceptual design again.
True. Makes sense. I thought the current middle school was still closer to the 83,000.
In the latest documents I sent out this afternoon, I've corrected all the square footages. I got those from Tecton Arc, from Eddie, from
Okay.
Tecton. Those are the same ones that we're submitting and all that, so it's consistent now with the square footages we're
Right,
using.
so these are wrong on here right now.
If they were in red, they're wrong.
Okay.
The latest ones I sent out today, the square footages have been corrected.
Okay.
Okay, I have a few more comments here. Under the consultant services, that for the under the architect, they should include an acoustician, specialty lighting, and theater design.
What page are you on?
I'm on the first page.
The one with all the bullets?
Oh. Can you repeat those?
Acoustician, specialty lighting, and theater design.
Is this where we need to call out the other consulting, the turbidity monitor, and do we need to call those out here? No?
No, they're separate and distinct entities.
Okay.
These would be things that an architectural firm would need either in-house or to have a subcontractor to develop their
Okay.
design.
I saw the soils engineering and testing. I just wanted to make sure that we had all our testing covered. Got it.
What about security, in those bullet points, stuff like that, with all the new technology with security?
Digital technology, security.
Would that be included where it says technology and telecommunications, or
Yeah, or you could just put another
something to do with
item in there for security. You could call it technology, telecommunications, and security.
Okay.
It would be the same consultant.
So when we say security, are we talking cybersecurity or physical site security?
Building security,
Building security?
access
Okay.
control, intrusion.
Okay.
Right.
It covers all of the above?
Yep.
Okay.
May go without saying, but it does not list mechanical, electrical, plumbing as a consultant.
I was kind of hoping it went without saying, but.
You would think.
Do we need to explicitly list the ed spec in there, so design in accordance with the educational specifications?
They'll request that when they're hired.
Okay.
Does it hurt to write it in there? I would just add it in. Why is it? I mean, I don't think it hurts to put it in there. Oh. Let's talk about the ed spec. Oh, the last bullet kind of talks about it. Prepare specifications for classroom, office, special function, auxiliary services. In which case, it would ask for that spec to figure it out.
I would think it may fall into that goes without saying category, but I asked since we asked about
Yeah,
mechanical anyway.
yeah. Probably doesn't
Yeah.
hurt. Maybe in parentheses,
Yeah.
right, in accordance with our educational specification.
Well, well, once you get done with the bullets for the subcontractor, the scope and design services shall include, but not necessarily limited to, design in accordance with the educational specifications.
Oh, okay.
Put it in there.
Yeah, makes sense.
That second paragraph on the second page, just, we should update Board of Selectmen to Town Council.
Yeah.
One thing we should be careful about here is there's specific language in contracts about specialty consultant services. So mechanical engineers, plumbing engineers, fire protection, they're not a specialty consultant. They'd be part of the prime. So somewhere, I thought I had actually read it previously, but somewhere as part of the main portion of the architect's work, that needs to be included. These other things, the environmental, FF&E, geotechnical, those are all things that are beyond the architect's basic services. So that's why they're separate here.
So these are like all subcontracted work from them, is what you're saying?
Yeah, but even the mechanical engineering, that could be subcontracted as well, unless they have it in-house, mechanical, plumbing, electrical, and fire protection. But that's all part of their basic services.
So we're back to goes without saying.
So you're suggesting we add extra verbiage somewhere?
It's stated up top it's the second sentence of the first paragraph. The AE firm shall provide all required engineering, environmental services, specialty consultants, either in-house or through subcontract with the AE firm.
Okay.
So
you
it
good
is,
with that,
it is
Ken?
covered there.
It's covered.
Okay.
I have one other comment. Yes, it does reference both grants in there, which is good in that first paragraph. However, the second paragraph, or the paragraph after the Board of Education Administrative Offices project, there's a reference in there to the Department of Education Bureau of School Facilities. That department is not called that anymore. So any reference, it's the fourth sentence in the fourth paragraph. It starts with the AE firm will also be responsible for the timely completion of and all submissions to the Department of Education Bureau of School Facilities. It's not called that anymore. It's called the Office of School Construction Grants and Review. And it's through Department of Administrative Services, DAS. It's not under State Department of Education anymore.
Yes, Office of School Construction.
Grants and Review. It's referenced a couple of times in here, and then there's, I think in one spot I think there was a reference to OSF. So if there's a reference to OSF or BSF, what it used to be called, just change that to SCGR. OSCGR, yeah. Office of School Construction Grants and Review.
You could write it out the first time and then hereafter.
Yes.
Save some trees.
It's a mouthful.
And I wouldn't waste a lot of time on the general conditions, because again, that's something that Mary Ann should review and add her input, additions, deletions, or whatever. I would just take her lead on that. Same thing with all the insurance information.
Can we, in this general conditions section, request that we use the Cromwell Board of Education EEO statement so that it's broader and includes more protected classes?
Yeah, again, that's whatever the town would want to add, include, or delete on that. I certainly have no objections to it.
What item is that?
Item G. There's some protected classes that aren't included as it's written currently.
The town has established language on that, Shannon?
Yeah, well, the board, I'm just referencing the Board of Ed.
What's
And
not included? We can just add it.
Gender identity, religion, handicap is now referred to disability, so.
Certainly no exceptions to that at all.
Gender ID. Gender identification, what was the other one?
Religion. It's like creed is now religion. I don't know, it's in this Board of Ed one, so I think it's easier to just copy and paste it. And then just compare that up to what the town has.
We'll have to check H if this should be Lisa or Ann or Marianne. Did we have a?
My last question or no, two more questions for me. In the Connecticut school experience, would we want to add something in there to ask those submitting their bids to share any experience with STEAM schools, since that's the kind of model we're looking at? And then my last question is for the interviews, I saw in some of the documents, and I know we're looking at a bunch of different ones, some said 45 minutes and some said 30, so I don't know if we have to make that decision now and include it in here, but it's probably worth us having a discussion about.
That is normally included when you send out the letter to the selected firms.
Okay.
You would say you have half an hour presentation, 15 minutes question, whatever format you want, but we have time to,
Flesh that out.
yep. That would go to the firms that are going to be interviewed.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess this paragraph about just method of selection criteria, where that'll probably change based off of the decision to move with the RFQ/RFP process, right? And we can follow what was outlined in the town RFP for that piece.
Yep. So what does the RFP part of it say? So we just need to include basically the project description, scope of services is already included, right? What's the difference between the RFQ and the RFP? What's missing from this to make it an RFP?
It's basically a proposal form.
Just the form?
It's a separate entity that's identified as a request for proposal. There's certain language that goes on that form, but usually it's just a one-page document. You reference the RFQ, all conditions therein, things along that line, but
Yeah, it's just as basic as, from what went out to Tecton, just literally this Exhibit C.
Yeah.
Just a blank line with a $ in front.
That's all it is?
Yeah, and then I think we just have to outline that in the selection process, right? Because in the current selection process, we say that we're gonna down select and then ask for the proposal. So this selection process, we would just say, provide that up front in the sealed envelope, so.
Separate, yeah, in a separate sealed, yeah.
envelope. So it probably makes sense to take the selection process from the RFP used in January
Yeah.
and just copy and paste it and, update language where needed, but, in terms of like that process.
The instructions to bidders, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, any other discussion on the architectural? RFQ?
Just, was there a reason for the, submission requirements, right? It says submit the, organized with all sections included in any order. Is there a reason not? Oh, I'm sorry, no. Included in the order shown. Never mind. It does say included in the order shown, so that's fine.
part of that to see if the firm can actually follow instructions.
Yeah.
If you go back to the first page, general scope, Cromwell Board of Ed, there's a full paragraph following the Board of Ed administrative. In there, there's a comment about construction delivery method is yet to be determined. We can change that to the delivery mechanism will be construction manager at risk, as that was decided tonight.
Just for my own knowledge, Ken, I'm just curious. Did you draft this pretty much from scratch, or you had some prior ones you've leveraged, or?
This is a merging of 30 years in experience in schools. This is basically a reprint of the RFQs that went out for Colchester. That was about 7 years ago.
Oh, okay. Oh. Yeah, it's very thorough.
But yes, it was something that I had drafted and
Yeah.
revised. Language changes, the school's facility, and it's been called 50 things over the last 10 years, so.
So we're gonna have to bank in some time for the town to review it, and the town lawyer's probably gonna wanna review it. I'm guessing they review everything before we actually have Mary Ann go and post it. If she's gonna be the one posting it, I have to confirm that with her. Alright, so we have,
So, given that the town is gonna need time to review this, I think submitting this on the 8th is,
Yeah, it's not gonna
is
happen.
a bit ambitious.
yeah. Yep.
It took the town a little under 2 weeks to review the other RFP that we used for Tecton.
What did I do with
So keep
my-
it as similar as possible. So who has the action to update that?
Is it something, oh, sorry, go
No,
ahead.
we.
I was gonna say, is it something that should be on the agenda of the town council? I know that's only a week after we meet and look at this next week. So the 13th.
What's on the agenda for town council, I'm sorry?
Should an approval, I guess the town council doesn't approve them.
They don't have to vote on it.
Okay.
No.
I think we're just saying we want to
Just
run
an-
it
like
by.
an
the-
We need to
FYI,
run
hey,
it by
hey,
through
it's-
the
Finance.
town.
We're going through the process.
Yeah.
Finance and
Yeah, okay.
legal.
Legal will have to go through it, and so even if we submit it, say the 15th, if we're doing an RFQ and RFP combo, then we should have everything submitted to us by 8/5. I think still, that gives them over 3 weeks to submit stuff, or 3 weeks to submit stuff.
From what date?
If we post everything on the 15th of July, that gives them like 3 weeks so then on 8/5 we should have, so instead of saying submit it should be receive.
I mean, they had 17 days. They had 17 calendar days for Tecton, the Tecton bid.
Yeah.
Just for a point of reference.
Yeah.
So here's my opinion on the submission date. 8/5, I think, is still pretty ambitious. Think about what part of the year we're in. People are on vacations. And just from our last meeting, Tecton thought 6 weeks would be appropriate.
They
6
did?
weeks seems like a lot. I think
6 weeks for them to submit a
Yeah.
proposal?
I think
That wasn't their statement of this whole process will take us 6 weeks from start
Yeah, I
to
don't
finish,
think-
was it?
Yeah,
I thought it was
that's
the whole
it. That was, it was
process.
6 weeks start to finish. I think 2 to 3 weeks. I mean, I understand your point right now about
The
the
vacations
time of year,
is
right?
Big
But
yeah.
term.
But they're gonna want these.
firms have the staff. They'll get it done.
yeah. I think it's ambitious.
It is, but I think these are just, I mean, these are target dates, right? We're gonna have to go with the flow.
Yeah.
We just need to keep, focus on what our own delivery dates are, right?
I think what we're saying is 3 weeks from issuance.
3 weeks from issuance.
Yeah.
Would that be fair? 3
Yep.
weeks from
I think
issuance.
8/5 is
relative.
what? That's 3 weeks?
Yeah.
From the 15th, yeah.
But if we don't go out the 15th, then it's
Yeah, then we have to
Then it
keep
has to
pushing
get
that date out.
5th isn't hard. It's
So I think by next week, we should hopefully settle on what we think these are and then bring them to the town. And then have the town review them and ask that they get them reviewed in a week. Acknowledging it's, we have a holiday weekend coming up and for us. And then help drive that 7/15 submittal date with them. And I'll grease the skids with Mary Ann this week, just letting her know that it's coming. I'll give her a rough draft so she can start digesting the fact that we are creating something for them. And then maybe invite her to our meeting next week if she wants to provide input. herself directly.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
So when
Ken-
will we, as a committee, have, if we're meeting on Wednesday, are we able to get an updated copy by Tuesday? To see before our meeting, is that
Yeah, I think that's the goal.
fair?
Do you think by Tuesday we can have an updated copy, Ken?
I'll meet with Lisa and she can, whatever she's taken down, and I've made notes, and we'll work it out together,
Okay.
if that's okay with you.
Is the high school available next Wednesday, by the way?
It should be, Claire's on vacation this week, but I can check with one of the secretaries first thing tomorrow morning.
Okay, yeah.
It should be though.
Okay.
I know that the custodians are keeping this for all summer long, this setup, right? I believe.
Yeah.
They said that, tonight, so I think it should be.
Okay.
I'll try if, I don't know what your schedule's like Friday. You have any availability? Yes?
Yes.
All right. So if we meet on Friday, she can draft it up pretty, and then we can distribute it, so that gives you the weekend and 3 days to digest.
Yeah, that'd be perfect.
Ken, I just want to, I know we talked about it, I would just say the document that Lisa handed out copies for, what Tecton had responded to. Yeah, that section instructions to bidders, maybe that's where it talks about, give us this many hard copies, and then give us the fee proposal in a separate envelope, like just wholesale, pretty much lift and shift, and have that be part of this. Just make sure that was, you had heard that feedback.
All right. Let's move on to the other one. If anyone have anything else they want to talk about with the architect? All right. Second one is for the project management services. You're talking about owner's rep? Okay. Do we need to redefine that on here? Or the same thing?
I've always called them project managers or project management services.
Yeah.
By the nature of the beast, they're the owner's representative.
What does the state call it? Does the state call it the owner's rep? Chris, does the state call it owner's rep or project manager does not make a difference?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
A rose by any other color.
They're both
Yeah,
pretty of colors.
in some cases, we're called the clerk of the works, and it's the same
Clerk of the
scope.
works.
It's purely municipally driven.
Okay.
Clerk of the Works is a little archaic, though. It's back in the day when Uncle Vito got the job, and but.
All right, let's review this one quick.
So similar to before under general scope, in the last sentence of the first paragraph, we'll change design development to schematic design phase based on conceptual design prepared by Tecton architects.
Right, in the last sentence of the second paragraph, the reference to State Department of Ed. Right, yep.
So Chris, I had a question for you. Under PM scope of work, item 9, it says review detailed cost estimate prepared by CM. I'm assuming we're going to have multiple cost estimates after each phase, schematic design, design development. Do you typically hire an outside cost estimator, or you only rely on the CM?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because that is actually something that we put in the scope of the architect as well, so that the architect hires an independent third-party cost estimator, and then at the end of each phase, you do a reconciliation with the architect's estimator and the construction manager's estimate. And those two parties get together, they reconcile scope, then they reconcile unit cost of that scope, and then you get to a reconciled estimate. So we would not do the estimate in this coming phase. We did the estimating for pre-referendum, but post-referendum through design development, construction documents, we typically have, like I said, the architect carry an estimator as well. And you get three separate estimates. You'll get one at the end of schematic design, one at the end of design development, and one at the end of construction documents before you go to the state to get your approval to go to bid. So those are the three reconciled estimates you'll get. I apologize, I didn't catch that. That's a good catch. But if you wanted to include that in the architect's scope of services, to provide a third-party cost estimator for each of the three phases.
Yeah. Okay, item 33, oversee commissioning agent services. We should have another item here to oversee special inspector or testing labs, materials testing labs.
It's really, the intent of that should be to oversee any, what do I want to call it, any vendor that or any town-held contract.
Okay.
That's really what that is. It's not just specific to the commissioning agent, special testing, and all those things. It's really anything. Architect, CM, it's kind of overseeing everything in a broad scope.
If you jump back to item 29, I've used the initials OSF, so we have to change those initials.
Mm-hmm. I have a question. I guess I'm going to ask it anyway. Number 11, administrate third-party structural review. Would that imply that this scope would hire the structural engineer to do the review, or is that just to, when you say administrate, is that just to facilitate it? Because that structural review would be, I don't think this building falls under a threshold review, so you probably wouldn't need the structural review anyway. But in the event, is this assuming that this RFP would include that cost and that consultant?
I think
Typically not.
for a
It
threshold review, that would be, that contract would be held by the owner.
Right. I'm just,
But, yeah.
administrate might just be the wrong word. That's all I'm saying.
Facilitate? Is it facilitating it?
Or coordinate with,
Coordinate, yeah.
Coordinate?
if required.
Yep. And number 24, that would be, instead of the first word being bid, I would think it would be coordinate the FF&E and technology bid packages prepared by the architect and their team. Project manager doesn't bid anything, just in terms of a word.
Coordinate bidding.
Yeah.
think number 48, I think could read, I think we can delete high school. I'm assuming that's just a carryover from another project.
Actually, it wasn't.
Oh, okay.
I threw that in there because, I mean, you do have, some of these architectural firms will reach out and we can have tours
Oh,
as
that's a
the
good
construction
point,
goes
yeah.
on with the high school students and things
Oh,
like
yeah, I
that,
think
so.
about that way. Oh, perfect.
You skipped 49, so I'm guessing 50 is 49.
I did that just to see if you were paying attention.
Oh, okay.
Can't get anything past her.
So under general conditions, item G, again, the equal opportunity statement. Just copy the same one that we talked about before on the other proposal from the Board of Ed.
Is that town language or Board of Eds?
Yeah, so that was the language used in the Board of Ed's, request for proposal for the owner's representative services.
Why do we need to include the second line in A under general conditions? By the town having no obligation to accept the lowest financial proposal?
Bullet A?
Bullet A, yes, is the town shall be under no obligation to accept the lowest financial proposal. Why do we have to include that in the RFP?
Because the way this is going to be structured is we may not necessarily pick the lowest fee. We may or we may not. So we are not obligated to pick the lowest
Does
proposal.
anyone, is there any statute or anything that says we have to?
No, the statutes, the state statutes regarding school construction allows us to not pick the lowest.
So why do we have to reiterate it here?
It allows you to negotiate down, actually. You have the ability to negotiate down. You obviously can't negotiate up without changing scope. But this is just to remove the assumption that lowest fee is the ultimate decision, or deciding factor.
It was standard language that I use in every
Yeah.
bid
Is
package
this
I
to
ever
prevent
put out.
companies from lowballing and then
Mhm.
increasing their prices later type of
Right.
thing?
What number is that?
It's under general conditions, A.
Pretty much general conditions on is cut and paste from architectural and engineering. I presume you'd want the same changes of adding the proposal submission at the same time as the language we put in the other ones.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
that makes sense.
I just gotta verify who they're gonna be sent to.
And then
Which I can't answer that.
how many copies do we need?
Yeah, I think they said 10 in here somewhere.
It's at the top of the page,
It's in-
top of the last
I did
page.
put
10 copies.
You might want to add an electronic version as well.
How do they submit the proposal electronically?
Thumb drive.
Through
Oh, you just can't open it up until later.
Yeah,
Which?
nice.
The fee proposal?
Yeah.
Oh, you could put the fee proposal, I guess, on a separate thumb drive in the fee proposal envelope.
Oh.
Most just combine them on the same thumb drive.
I wasn't even thinking thumb drive, so.
They just
I know,
Yeah, I was
I
thinking
was
like
thinking
an email or something, like an
Oh.
encrypted
Yeah.
email or something.
No, the proposals are huge. They're usually I don't know, 45 to say 65 pages. I mean, they end up being a big file. That's why you just put it on a thumb drive.
My computer you're just gonna have
I guess-
for them drive.
Yeah, putting it on a thumb drive, then you can have it be in one document but sealed with the fee proposal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Or just not include the fee proposal electronically. It's just one page.
I would suggest that.
Yeah.
We stay right away from the
Right.
fee proposal electronically. We
Because
can
then the electronic.
PDF it ourselves for a
Right.
one-page document.
Because then the electronic qualification, you can then you can set that to a Google Drive or something where everybody can just access
Yes,
it whenever they
yes,
want it.
yeah.
And then there's no, we did have a little bit of that when we did this RFQ, where there were a couple of thumb drives that included the fee proposal on them, and
Yeah, that's what we
we didn't touch
received.
them.
I mean, it had the
Right.
pricing in right the page after, but okay.
yeah.
So
I believe actually IT, someone in IT separated the qualifications from the fee proposal without actually opening the fee proposal document and then
Okay.
distributing it. Just to keep it fair, there were a few people that kind of watched.
I'll put it in, it would, not to include the fee proposal, and,
Okay.
And electronic.
just put it in bold print.
Yep.
yeah, that makes sense. So 10 paper copies and then 1 electronic copy.
Of the
Of
qualification.
the qualifications.
Only, right.
Only for the electronic copy. That makes sense. Okay.
Can I go back to because I was comparing, can I go back to the architect one? Very minor.
Sure.
Just maybe put a heading after, like on the first page after the Board of Ed Administrative Office
Yeah, I was
fees.
looking at that too.
Just put a heading, then I think the heading would be architect scope of work. Specific scope of work, like you have in the PM, right? You have PM scope of work, and then you have a lot of text after it. I think that the section underneath the Board of Ed office project is kind of the scope of work. You see that, Ken? Where's the for the architect one?
Yeah.
The first page underneath the Board of Ed Administrative Office project section. The paragraph that starts with the selected firm will work with the CMB as whatever those acronyms are. Yeah, like just title that scope of
You
services.
see a subheading underneath there?
Just a subheading, yeah, just so it
Architect scope of work.
for the PM. Yeah.
Got it.
And then, while I'm at are we calling it the Board of Ed Administrative Office project? We're not calling it the central offices, or I wasn't sure. Do we wanna
Central office.
just central office?
Central offices.
It could be Board of Education central office, but it's got to have central office in there. Yeah.
All right, that's all I was thinking.
That's the way the state refers to it.
Okay.
So just central offices is good enough?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right, that'll be on both docs. And then the last one was on the second page of the architect, the last paragraph before general conditions. It references Board of Selectmen, or did someone already say that
Yeah, we
one?
said town council. Yeah, we got that one.
Fine.
Shannon was all over that one.
What are they?
Town council. Town council.
Town council. Yeah.
Did we do the same on this one? It's okay.
I didn't see.
We'll have another chance to review it.
Oh, well, I didn't see that requirement, but actually earlier in that paragraph, it says they shall be required to attend bi-weekly meetings. Do we want to soften that to may be required? I don't know.
The architect?
The architect.
We want them at the meetings.
It doesn't have an end date. I mean, if this is a 36-month project, we're going to have them. Okay.
I mean, they need to be involved throughout the whole project, right?
I didn't know.
Right,
Honestly,
Jen?
I assume they're more front-loaded.
Is there a point where the architects are like, all right, we're done?
No, you'll.
I'm assuming they'd be engaged. I guess I just figured the level of engagement was more heavy before we
I feel like towards
select
the end, we're
but
gonna have a
that's
lot
fine.
of like
All right,
minor issues.
we'll leave
when
it
we
as shall.
there.
Yeah, if there's
yeah.
meetings where we don't think we'll need them, we can.
Yeah, we can excuse them. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, any other discussion on the project management RFQ for now? We can continue reviewing it this weekend and then,
If following, is our intent for the special meeting to kind of lock it down? Like
Yeah.
we're reviewing a clean review, subject to then the
We want
town
to.
review.
We want to have a final. This is great. So then we can bring it to the town
Town.
like the day after, and get it to
Yeah.
Marion. I'll sit down with her. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe
Friday.
ask her, say, hey, if we send it to you Wednesday night after our special meeting, or, on Thursday,
Yeah.
can you provide it to us, sign off by the following Wednesday?
Yep. I'm
And
gonna
then
send her an email
post it.
and then follow up with her. And I'm debating giving her the rough draft. I kind of feel like I should, just so she knows what we're gonna give her.
I would suggest you send out, pretty much Friday, we'll kind of have corrections made.
Yeah.
And then we can distribute that, send it to her then,
On Friday.
and then ask her to review and the general conditions, insurance requirements.
Yeah.
And the more days she has to do it, the better
Yeah.
off
Yep.
she's gonna be.
Yep.
Right, and we're gonna invite her to the meeting too, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on these? The next was a possible action to approve, but we're postponing that till our special meeting next week, right? Yep. Okay. Next on our agenda is an after-action review of this pre-referendum work that we did. So basically what we're trying to do is set some like best practices, lessons learned for any future Cromwell building committee. So we know that ECS is probably coming up within at least the next decade, hopefully. We want to look back and say, what did we do well? What worked for us? Should we encourage the next committee to do? What didn't work for us? What should we discourage them from doing? And then for ourselves moving forward, what are some things that we want to do differently or keep on doing as we enter this next phase of our project? So let's start with what we did well. Just shoot out answers.
Well, I think we kind of, it was phenomenal that this committee collectively was able to take it in a 4-month process and have such a successful referendum. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, to be honest with you. Those other committees I was on, you're talking a year's worth of work before you got to referendum, not 4 months.
Yeah. What do you think attribute to that? Like, what did we do well?
The communications subcommittee.
Yeah, fantastic.
For future projects, I mean, I personally would like to see, try to get a collective consensus between the town council, the Board of Education, as to if it's going to be a school project to move it forward, and then form your building committee at that point, and let the building committee then start the whole pre-referendum process and give them plenty of time, line up a PM, line up an architect to do all the preliminary work, bring it to referendum. Now, whether that's asking a lot to try to get consensus between the council and the Board of Education on a future project, but I just think the projects would run a lot more smoothly if you knew you had town and board consensus to move a project forward, form a building committee, and then let the building committee take it from there.
So basically have the building committee do all the pre-work that the Board of Ed had done for us?
Correct. That way the building committee isn't inheriting things to which we have so many questions about, processes that we didn't know how they were done, those type things.
Okay, I'll file that under what we could do differently.
So I'd like to add to what went well. I know you mentioned the communications subcommittee, but what was awesome is if we had an event and we reached out saying, hey, we need a couple volunteers, everybody jumped in without question. So it was, hey, John, we need some help with the car show, on it. So there was a lot of teamwork and collaboration.
Yeah, there's a lot of good engagement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I think part of that was just keeping part of the process for the communications committee was a look ahead document that we had, so we knew all the upcoming events. We knew if we had contacted, we were tracking who we contacted if we heard back, and then we could able that allowed us to clearly communicate to this team the, you know, what we had, right, the expectations and what we needed. So I think, you know, having that just kind of that whole look ahead process is what really facilitated, you know, being able to get volunteers, hopefully not too last minute. I know sometimes we made last minute requests, but
Yep.
mhm.
I think that open house was fantastic. I think that really was an eye-opener
Mhm.
for the public, and if we ever did that at ECS, I can't even imagine the outcry. That would be amazing, too.
Similar approach was done in Colchester with their middle school, and their middle school was a lot more worse off than Cromwell middle schools. And I think that really tipped the scales. They
Yeah.
did the whole open house presentation, you know, hundreds of people went through the school that hadn't been through it before, and so that's a very valid point.
I also think it helped that we didn't restrict our communications with the families. We went to like Covenant Living and the seniors, and you know, spoke to them and listened to their concerns, and we're open to like all feedback, right, to address everyone's thoughts on the project. So we weren't just trying to promote. We're really trying to engage the community as a whole and get as much feedback as we can, because you know, we keep saying at the end of the day, this is a community project that should benefit most of us, if not all of us.
Yeah, I think multiple communications channels for receiving feedback, right? We did it through an email list, we did it, or through our email inbox, we did it through social media inboxes, we did it through 2 public comment sections on our agendas, and then we did it, you know, going out face to face, provided that feedback. Now, also, the other thing that helped us do is then create contact lists, so moving forward, we're continuing to share this information with our community so we can continue receiving that feedback.
Yep. How do you think social media went? For the most part, it was okay. There wasn't a lot of engagement with social media, but it was hard to tell.
We had, I mean,
And towards the end, it was picking up a lot.
Yeah, our metrics were really strong. We were definitely getting visibility. A lot of the feedback we got when we were out at events were like, yep, I got it. I see it through social media. So we know people were seeing it. We did a lot of work with our communication strategy, posting daily to keep our numbers up. Even if it was just like, you know, here's our email address, because that's what's needed to stay relevant, and sharing it to those Cromwell pages. But I think we did hit a big demographic there. I think the postcards were really important though, because we know that when we sent out the postcards, that then drove traffic to our email inbox. So we got, you know, more individuals reaching out with questions that we were able to respond to that I don't think otherwise we would have gotten to.
Do you think for a future team doing 2 mailings would be beneficial? Like one initially just stating that, you know, this committee was created, this is in the works, we want you to come, these are our maybe meeting dates, and then a secondary one closer to that referendum, just showing like tax implications and all the other information that we had already provided?
Yeah, I think if the budget exists, that would be helpful. It would get the word out. Allow people to get engaged earlier.
Do was the coverage we got through you know, the rare reminder more kind of as that guy Mark DiPaolo, I think was his name, was that more based on when he chose to cover things? Like we didn't have a line of communication where we said, hey, like rare reminder, just to let you know this meeting's happening or this decision happened, right? I know oftentimes they quoted you, Rosanna, but I think that was, it's not like this person called you. It was they sent this.
I emailed the reporter, so I would email reporter schedules and I would email them press releases as we were hitting major milestones.
Because that's good, yeah. Because I calling it old-fashioned, but I think the email's great, social media's great, but especially in a small town where people only get the paper once a week, and there's really only 2 pages of no offense. There's really only 2 pages of like really important, critical town information of news, so to speak. So if people know that, like that's kind of, I think that might catch a good amount of people.
We were in the rare reminder this week. I never got the rare reminder this month. Suppose we were in the rare reminder.
Yes, about it passing the referendum, right? Yeah.
We were fortunate too. Every article that was out there was favorable. I mean, there was no negative information contained in those articles.
Yeah.
I think, so maybe to add on to the, we were trying to get out and get the message to the community. Whether, I don't know if we ever explicitly said this, but I know the goal of the committee is transparent communications. And based on some of the traffic that we saw on social media and some of the feedback that we've gotten from other people, I mean, we got the facts out. There was no, as soon as we had information, it was flowing to people. So there was really no room to second guess because we
Right.
were sharing everything that we knew. So I think that was appreciated
Right. I
from
agree.
the town, and it also makes it much easier for all of us to. It is what it is. There's no sugarcoating it. So I think
Right.
maintaining that transparency is important.
At the same time, though, I felt like initially there was a lot of false information going around, like rumors or whatnot of what we were and weren't doing, or false information. And I don't know how we would fix that in the future.
I think, so just an opinion, being able to engage the town as early as possible. So if it was a postcard at the onset of the
Yeah.
project, hey, we've set up a website, we have an email. If you need to reach out and you have questions, this is where to go.
Yeah.
So early on, people were just learning, oh, there's a project. Did you just start it? And we're like, well, no, it started in 2016. So just because there was nowhere else to get information, or, folks not knowing where to go, that just left room for, questions and
Right.
and rumors. But I think that started to quell once we actually got information out there to folks. I don't know if, Shannon, you or Heather feel
Yeah, because I
differently.
think people started hearing from us when we started organizing, and even the subcommittee wasn't really established right away either.
Right.
I think it was like a week or two before it got everyone going, maybe.
Yeah, and we built a website
like
in
overnight.
less than
It
a
was-
week.
it was
which
crazy.
is incredible.
So,
Great
but there
work, Heather.
was over a year's worth of work that had started prior to that wasn't being communicated
Yeah,
out.
right.
So people just assumed that this whole thing started in like February.
Right.
We just out of the blue, selected all these vendors and but yeah, this has been in the works for like 6 years, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that goes back to Ken's recommendation too, right? Of the building committee being established and then the going through the process
Yep.
of bringing folks on board, right? And that time you would set up, that was one of my notes, setting up the communications committee early so you can lay that strategy, build that website to create these channels, and then get out there and communicate, the ownership was selected, the architect was selected. We didn't have the opportunity to provide that information and bring people along in that way.
Yep, I agree. I think it also helped that we had a variety of talent on this team, right? We're very fortunate to have our communications specialist, but in architecture, we just have like a sampling of every major skill set that we need. So I think that was helpful too, to kind of give perspective on all angles of everything that we've done. So
Yeah, and maybe emphasize that in the sense that I imagine the town council, when they created, selected people, I know for sure they wanted folks with past construction experience, building experience. So, I know ends up making that comment on both the Kens here in terms of their qualifications for that. I don't know then how much they said, oh, let's make sure we have someone that's good with social media, marketing, or communications.
Right.
Maybe they did, or maybe it was just kind of happenstance that, okay, great, we had this kind of all-star team of people that really could do their marketing. So maybe next time you intentionally do try to,
Right.
find someone that has
Yeah.
those.
I
too.
agree. Yeah,
'Cause that
definitely
could've made
having
a big
someone who
difference.
understands the telecommunications part of it, the marketing part of it is really, I think, critical. And it's not so much marketing, it's just being able to effectively communicate clearly,
Yeah, provide updates. Yeah.
that in a way that people are used to seeing it. Anything else that was done well?
The other thing I had on my list, and these are kind of just more comms tactics items, but we early created a presentation template, and then we updated it throughout the pre-referendum time period, but that was helpful to just kind of have that. on the shelf ready to go, as you know, we had so many of us went out and spoke at different places. And then also the once the conceptual option was selected, having those posters created that kind of highlighted some of the I can't even think right now, but our posters with the benefits and what we're looking
Yeah.
to do, having those at all these events, I think really engaged the community. It facilitated a lot of great questions and a lot of great discussion with people at the different events.
Agreed. Anything else? you wanna
Oh, and
add?
then live streaming and recording and storing meetings so people can
Oh,
go
yeah.
back and look at them later.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, is having access to all of our meetings on YouTube. I think again that helps with the transparency part of it.
And then I also found it really helpful that we toured Colchester
Yeah,
Middle
oh, yeah,
School
yep.
before we made some decisions.
Yep. Heather, is there anything you want to add?
I think Shannon hit most of the things that I had kind of jotted down. The one thing that I think we can kind of cross off the list is Instagram being a social media outlet. I just feel like there was not any there wasn't enough engagement to make that endeavor worth it.
Okay. Anything we would do differently besides starting up earlier?
I would love to have some sort of training or an introductory, here's how a town committee runs. Just getting a little bit more background to get everyone grounded. We did spend weeks-ish trying to understand what we could say and couldn't say in public.
Yep.
Yeah, I
we
think
spent a
part
lot
of that
time
was
on that.
like understanding, and I would kind of include in that bullet understanding town processes, like, and information flow, like who could email who, what was the purchasing policy. We kept being told we needed a PO, but we didn't even know what that was. It took us a while to kind of understand
orientated to
what
the-
those things were, what that meant, not coming from a different background.
Maybe we need to create a playbook.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Yeah, a guidebook. So the charge is legalese and kind of tell you what not to do, but a
Right.
playbook could tell you
Like,
some of the softer stuff.
these are
Yeah.
things you
Tips and
can and
tricks
can't say, and when you can and can't say
Translations.
them.
Yeah.
See, I think even in our discovery of all, it wasn't clear for the people who it should have been clear for, right? They had to do some discovery themselves, so.
Yeah, that's self-discovery.
And, like I said, ECS is probably next, but who knows when that's gonna happen, and we have short memories, so, maybe creating a playbook. I'll add that as an action.
So we don't forget, right?
Yeah.
We need you there, Ken. And I think part of that too, that some of that like slow, like that learning curve, it led to missed opportunities for us to print documents and create some of the things we wanted to create, or resulted in us using our own money to do so.
And actually, I think if we had better engagement from the finance director, like at our meetings, where we could have asked those questions directly, maybe
Yeah, that
it
would
would
be
have
helpful.
sped up things a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because she had a lot of the answers, or even a session with the town attorney, like directly.
Yeah, well, and maybe it's related, but I know early on, I think it was even Karen had asked, just is there going to be, we had biweekly meetings, but she said like, oh, is there a small subset of people that want to meet weekly because there's a lot of stuff to hash out. We probably would have needed this if it was like 10 years ago, but because we had a lot of Teams interaction and email stuff, I think we were able to
Yeah.
we handle it kind of virtually.
Right.
But maybe that could have been the forum, because I know at least on 2 or 3 occasions, you met with Tony and Mary Ann. It may have been good just to have some standing meetings
Yeah.
with them, so that if okay, like Tony and Mary Ann can't make our our meetings here, we can just expedite the, hey, like, this is what we need. I don't know if you ever found email lags sometimes as a problem, or
Yeah.
just miscommunication, so.
Yep. That's actually a good idea.
I don't think the ad in the Cromwell Chronicle was very impactful. We didn't see much traffic come out of that.
Oh, the one we paid for? Yeah, it's odd. They kept giving us like free publications, like free like they wrote about us without us having to ask them to.
Yeah, so I wouldn't do an ad again.
I'd put that budget somewhere else.
Well, that's what the town pushed for. They wanted us to do the ad, right?
Yeah.
So is it safe to say that the communication lines that we did push for funding for were more productive than the ones that we were kind of requested to do?
Say that again?
Like the postcard.
Like the
Did we get more traffic
We got a lot of pushback on the postcard, but I feel like we got more traffic from the postcards than we did from the article in the newspaper.
Yeah, not the newspaper articles, but the newspaper
The ad,
ad.
yeah.
I would say we didn't get like I was like tracking, QR scans and then emails. I would kind of look to see, did we get any email response? And we didn't.
Are
Like,
the QR codes different? Were they different for the newspaper versus anything else?
they weren't, but I would do it based timing.
Okay.
So like I knew this went in print, so if I saw like clicks, well, scans, I should say, then you could correlate it. And then like if somebody, like I said, we got a few emails. I know we got like at least 5 emails right after the postcard went out, right, with community concerns. We didn't get anything from the ad.
Okay.
It was, with the same kind of information. So
So we could have saved that money.
yeah, it was, it was a pretty big budget item. So I just don't think, not to say nobody read it, right? We don't know that, but
Right. The engagement part of it was not there.
yeah. So it's just something to consider. That's just my opinion. Sorry, this goes back to the other one, or what we did well. We used Constant Contact and Easy Texting as tools for our email list and text services, which helped us manage opt-outs and be in compliance with email marketing law, which I think is
Easy texting. Is there a cost associated with that?
a good thing to do. Yes.
It's by a number of people you text to, right? The population.
By
you're
how many
texting.
people you text, yeah.
Trying to get the town to do that. To like everyone in the town. Be nice. All right. Anything else we want to add to this list? Either things we did well or things we want to do differently.
I think a little primer on the design and construction process would have been helpful for everybody.
Never too late.
It probably still, yeah,
Yeah, I was
exactly.
gonna say that.
I know. I think we still kind of need that.
Thanks for volunteering, Ken.
Start working on that, Ken.
Thanks, Ken. Expect the PowerPoint presentation 2 weeks from today.
Foundation first, okay, got it.
Foundation first. Actually. Okay.
Also, it didn't bother me because I'm a night owl, but I would think maybe establishing some rules about communication, especially with teams, maybe to say, hey, like, no, or this is how people get shut off their team notifications or something after like a certain
So you don't
hour.
like my 11:30?
Doesn't matter. I mean, again, it didn't bother me. I was just thinking how
my
like,
2 o'clock
oh
in the
man.
morning. Oh my gosh, I forgot to tell
Mine
them.
are off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I turn mine off.
Yeah, that's not actually but yeah.
Fine, Matt.
No, it's a pro and a con. Just like make sure there's an effective use of collaboration tool. People can access it, but also know how to manage it as as they need, I guess. Yeah.
Do not post times. Okay. Anything else? All right. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Next thing on the agenda we added was to review the future meeting dates. So, July 13th is the next town council meeting. I'm just opening up my calendar, my phone. Proposing to move that date to the July 14th. I think, John, you said you're not here that week.
The 14th, no, I'll be here the 13th, I'm gone, leave at 4 AM on the 14th.
Are you here on the 12th?
Yes.
Someone else is not here on the 12th, so you're not here on the 12th.
Yeah, I'm not here that week, so.
You're not here the whole week?
Yeah.
Oh, so you're regardless.
So don't
We're in
work
July.
around-
Everyone
don't
else
work
is
around
in
my
there.
schedule.
So, do we have a preference over July 12th versus the 14th? Is everyone okay with July 12th? That way John could attend?
I can do the 12th.
You can do 12th? All right. So let's move July 13th to July 12th.
I can't do the 12th, but that's okay. So,
Oh, you can't do the 12th?
yeah, I can't do the 12th.
Oh.
I have a.
Will we have enough for quorum? Okay, I think we're gonna run into this
Yeah,
throughout the summer.
1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, because you'll be here.
Yeah,
Or-
you need 5 for quorum.
Are you not dialing in?
No.
You could dial in.
Yeah.
Because you won't be here.
Correct.
Okay. Or Heather could be here. So we'll have a quorum. We need 5. Okay. All right. So July 12th, we'll do that one. The next one is
August 10th.
August 10th. Proposing August 11th on that one. Good. August 11th. Good. Good. Okay.
I'll be on a
August-
cruise. I'll be on a cruise.
You'll be on a cruise.
The whole week.
So,
10th to the 11th,
10th to 11th.
I'm available.
Okay. We're probably gonna have to add something in between, is my guess, for interviews or whatnot. Though I won't be here the week of August 13th. So we'll have to figure that out as we get closer.
So do we want to say add August 31st, or we want to wait until we have a better idea of where all that lands?
Let's wait till we have a better idea.
Makes sense.
And make sure that we're actually getting, oh, then we're gonna add also we're adding, June 8th? No, June 6th, or July 6th, sorry. We're adding July 6th on here. Special meeting,
Wednesday, July 6th.
Wednesday, July 6th.
Is there any reason? I mean, while we're at it, you mean Wednesday, July 6th, then you're meeting Tuesday, July 11th?
July 6th is just a special meeting.
No, I understand.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just thinking.
No, August 11th.
August 11th,
Oh.
July 12th.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he's saying.
I was just thinking, do you want to
You're having a
consolidate?
special meeting on the 6th, and then 5 days later, you're meeting on Tuesday.
Just do it all in one night, you say.
Do it all on the 6th.
Do it all
All
we
on the
can,
6th.
and then skip the 11th,
The 12th.
Skip July 12th.
Uh,
I mean,
or July 12th, whatever.
I would think you're gonna need one. You're kind of skipping the end of the month too. I would think you're gonna need one at the end of July, assuming this goes out.
we do have
Got
a
one
July.
on the 27th.
We do.
Oh,
Yeah,
nobody
so-
mentioned the 27th.
Wait, we're
Oh,
just
that's
not
already-
changing it.
that, we're only mentioning the ones we have to change because they're in conflict with town council.
Gotcha.
Up to you. I mean, you can play by ear. I don't know if you wanted to front load. If clearly a key objective is to get these RFPs out, right? That's priority number one in the shortest of terms. I didn't know if there was any other items that would have otherwise been discussed on the 12th that we can discuss on the 6th.
On the 6th, it would just be the RFQs for the construction manager, probably the next thing we'd have to talk about.
I think you have some
Is
time.
there harm
We have time for that.
keeping both dates and then just canceling July, the second one if we need it, if we need to cancel?
I don't think so. It's easy enough to do.
So why don't we do this then? Why don't we move July 13th to July 6th? We'll move it up 1 week. We'll cancel July 13th for now. And then if we feel like we need to meet between July 6th and July 27th, we'll schedule a special meeting for that.
We already have one on July 6th.
Well, we're rescheduling July 13th to July 6th. We're moving it up a week.
Like, no matter what, we know we have to do
Yeah.
something with July 13th, right? Because it's currently in conflict with town council. So you're proposing cancel it,
Cancel it all together.
and then after the July 6th meeting, determine if we need to reschedule something for that week.
Right. So after July 6th, we don't have anything until July 27th. If we feel along the way like, we really need to meet, we just schedule a new meeting. We just need 2 days advance notice, 24 hours advance, 24 hours advance notice. I feel like we're probably gonna want to meet, but
If the RFPs get issued in that time frame,
really, I
I
don't
don't
think
know
we have
that you'll
anything
need-
to review until the
I
end of
don't,
July,
I don't know that
right?
you'll have any,
Yeah.
you won't have a need to
Yeah.
meet. There won't be
Right.
anything to discuss.
Right.
The only thing we need to wrap up is the CM RFQ.
Right, which we have time for, I think,
Right.
right? So let's leave it like that then. So we'll have July 6th, cancel July 13th. The August one gets moved. Do we
So
have-
August becomes now what?
August 10th is now August 11th. 11th.
Can I add one as well?
And then the 24th, August 24th?
August 24th is okay.
Lisa, you wanted to?
Yes, I'm sorry. August, September 7th.
Yeah.
That's the open house at the high school.
Oh,
So, if you want to change that, what am I saying, like?
The 8th?
The 8th?
yeah. That's
I-
fine with me.
I think you might be good personally, because then you're gonna start to schedule interviews
Yeah.
and things like that, so you're probably gonna wanna double up some meeting items with the nights you're here for interviews,
Right.
so that you're not,
Oh,
It's-
here every night?
it's gonna be a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
over the course of those couple of weeks.
Yep.
Okay.
So just thinking ahead, you're probably okay with getting out to September. Because my guess is you're going to end up moving these around anyway once
Right.
RFQs get issued, and then
right.
you, because you're not going to want this to drag on.
Right. Yep. That's good.
Suggestion.
That's fine. And there's no town, yes, doesn't matter. Okay, September 8th. Town council meeting is October 12th.
Yep.
That one's a fine.
The next conflict is December 14th.
December 14th. And we can move that to December 15th
Sounds good.
for now.
Lisa, were you able to manage the calendar invites
Yeah.
for us? Okay.
Yep, I can change all of those.
All right, thanks.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, so just to recap, we are moving July 13th to July 6th. We're moving it up 1 week. We're moving August 10th to August 11th, September 7th to September 8th, December 14th to December 15th.
December 15th, I think, is the Board of Finance. Hold on, let me look.
I don't
Yeah,
think
I think it's the Board of Finance
I don't
meeting.
need to present at that, do I?
Wait.
I shouldn't have
Board of
to.
Finance meeting on a
I think so.
on a Wednesday?
Thursday the 15th.
Thursday the 15th? I don't know why it wouldn't
Oh,
be
but
the
your Board of
22nd,
Finance.
but
Yeah.
maybe. Okay.
Your
Oh,
Board
maybe
of
'cause it's getting
Finance.
close to the
Yeah, I
holidays.
think they tend to move
So
those
do we
early.
want to move that to the 13th then?
Yeah, the only thing that night is the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Oh, we don't need to be there. All right, so September 14th is December 13th then.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to move those dates as Rosanna just laid out.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Okay. Communication Subcommittee report.
Right, I would like to propose the communication subcommittee meets on the following schedule. Lisa, I will get this over. I will email this to you. So you don't have to write this all down. Tuesday, July 19th at 7:30, and then July 27th, the rest of the meetings are all at 6 p.m. preceding our building committee meetings. July 27th, August 11th, although we may want to change that one now. August 24th, September 21st, October 5th, October 19th, November 2nd, November 16th, and November 30th.
Is there a motion to approve the
6 o'clock too?
6 o'clock. Yep.
motion to approve the subcommittee schedule?
Second.
All in favor say aye. All opposed say nay.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
ayes have it.
We're tired.
I'm so tired. Oh, shoot, what did I just do? I'm trying to change my schedules and do things at the same time.
That concludes my report.
Town council meeting's July 13th, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then you had oh, that was your sub A. Okay. I didn't like shift right out. Any more public comments? Any updates, comments, or announcements from board members? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Almost.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.